everyone. Welcome to our AGM. Thank you for making the time. We know you're all very busy, so it's lovely to have so many of you join us for our annual AGM. I'm Ewan King. I'm the Chief Executive of Shared Lives Plus. Been with you for about 2 years, and loving working with you on improving, developing, growing shared lives and home share. So I will, in a moment, hand over to Richard, who's the chair of our board, and there are other members of our board who you'll hear from as well. And then I'll come back in a bit later to tell you a bit more about what's been going on. But if it's okay, Richard, I'll hand over to you to make a start. And I'll steer through the slides. So just I'll try to just nod through, and I'll change this.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Ewan, and a really warm welcome to you all, whether you be a Shared Lives carer, a home sharer, whether you be a scheme worker, a Shared Lives worker, or a home share provider. So big welcome, whatever the role is that you have, because Shared Lives Plus is obviously about home share, but it's about shared lives, and it only works because of the contribution everybody makes to ultimately making a huge difference to people's lives. So I'm going to just quickly show you, well, no, Ewan's got the agenda up, even better. So an annual general meeting has to do some formal sort of things, like we need to go through the minutes. We'll do that in a minute. We need a couple of reports, so you know where things are at, because that's the organisation's duty to its membership and to and in terms of the Charity Commission too. So we have to do a bit of formal stuff, but hopefully it's an opportunity to share too the challenges, because there's no doubt plenty of those, but also some of the really positive things that are happening around both home share and shared lives. So and we also are going to have the opportunity, you're going to have the opportunity here, 6 different voices actually, mine, Ewan, who you just heard from as our chief exec, Ian, who's our treasurer, and then Drusilla, David, and another colleague who will talk from the Your Voice forums from both the carer, home share, and scheme perspective. So you're going to have a lot of opportunity to hear different voices, and at any point, don't hesitate to put questions into the chat. That's the only way we can manage a big meeting with 40, 50, 60 people, and we'll make sure that we pick those questions up, or if we're not able to in the meeting, we get back to you too. So please use that chat function to let us know what you think, what you want to say, and make sure your voice is heard. So who we are. So just quickly, sorry, I should just quickly go back. So our last annual general meeting was back in October of last year, and there's a link to the meeting in the chat, I hope, already. It took place on the 12th of October. It was online via Zoom. We had 72 people around that virtual table, and those minutes have been circulated. We talked about the year, about our finance, and some of the challenges we had around home share. So I don't think there is anything to do other than hopefully just agree those minutes. So if people are happy who were here last year can do that, that would be good. And then secondly, to just check if there are any matters arising. So unless anybody's got anything, I don't think there are, we can move on. So Lynn or somebody, Lydia, you'll jump in and let me know if I need to respond, because I actually can't see the chat at the moment because I've got the screen occupied with slides. So let's go to who we are. So we're now on item 3, Chair's report. So it's one of these things, it's a bit like if you're not, if you're a wedding and you're not a friend of the bride or the groom, you should probably be there. So you're going to know this. Who are we? Well, you know, in a sense, I'm talking to people who absolutely embody what Shared Lives Plus is about in terms of home share and shared lives. So we are about supported living. We're about connecting people to communities. We're about giving people choice and enabling them to live the lives they want to lead, which, with all due respect, often in paid services isn't quite able to be delivered in the way in which we can do it through home share and shared lives, because you can't, I've said this before, you can't commission into a service love or relationships or opportunities. It doesn't work like that. That's what sharers do. That's what shared lives and shared lives families do. So that's who we are. Let's move on, Ewan. So I have the privilege, and probably coming towards the end of my time of holding this privilege, but I've been chair of Shared Lives Plus. It's been a role I've held for 9 or 10 years now, and this is my team. That's not. These aren't photographs. They're just a small sketch of the team. But at the moment, we have 7 trustees that they're named there, and you're going to hear from Drusilla. Carol, unfortunately, is not well today, and you're going to hear from David too. But we're also supported by Ian as our treasurer, Kate and Aisling. And we've had a big churn and changeover, and that's been a planned process. And we will be looking to appoint a couple of new trustees over the next period of time, but we've said a farewell to Martin Thomas, who might be on the call, but many of you have known, to Maxine, to Jane from Northern Ireland, Martin Ewan from Wales, Mike Jacobs, who was a Shared Lives carer in Surrey, and also to Emma Kiss, who was the Your Voice chair for Home Share, but now replaced by David Matthews because her role has changed. So that's the trustees. Many thanks from me to them for all the work they do. So I'm just going to very quickly rattle through about 6 slides. And it really is just to give you an overview of where we are in relation to home share and shared lives. And you'll find a lot of this information in a lot more detail on our website in our State of the Nation report. So I encourage you to go and have a look at those. So 9,000, just under 10,000 people, 9,802 people, everyone counts, supported by 10,081 carers across the UK, across the 4 nations, and 19 home share organisations, making a difference to well over 80 people's lives. So that's where we stand. Let's just quickly look at where that what that means nation by nation. So some great picture here of Stacey, obviously, who's got a real interest in shared lives and some of the people she spent some time with. So in England, we've got about just over 8,000 people supported in shared lives arrangements, and really positive that the new government has already looked to engage with Shared Lives Plus. So Ewan has met the minister who's responsible in England for care services, Stephen Kinnock, and excuse me, we've got significant interest across England in relation to promoting shared lives as part of government-funded reform processes, and that's something that Ewan, Susie, and other colleagues are heavily involved in, and actually now supporting areas to really up their game around shared lives. So that's the England picture. Let's go to Wales, where we've got well over 1,000 people now supported. We've got funding that ceased, unfortunately, in 24. We'll continue to work hard to re-establish that, but an awful lot of work going on around a strong network of support across the nation in Wales, and a lot of, I think, real interest to continue to grow shared lives in that setting too. On to Scotland, where the numbers are slightly lower, bigger population actually, so there's work to do in Scotland. 500 plus people supported in shared lives arrangements. We're continuing to try and build our relationships with the Scottish government, Scottish politicians. We're doing some really innovative work. So Moray is one of the areas where we're working, and looking to, I think, just try and continue to make sure that colleagues in Scotland in health and care are really clear about what shared lives can do for people. And then not last but not least, Northern Ireland, where we have seen the development of a new scheme, and there's a picture of our colleagues in Northern Ireland, one of whom worked with us closely to get this scheme off the ground. Now 64 people supported by 200 or so carers, but a real opportunity to build shared lives into an offer for older people. Thanks, Ewan. And then home share. So last year we had to report on the challenge we'd had around the scaling project that we were hoping to secure and deliver with home share. That didn't work out financially, and we've seen funding reduced from the Welsh Government too. But we're continuing to work with the network. I think we've got lots more work to do, and David will probably say something about this when he gets to his bit in the presentation. But what I think is important to note is that, notwithstanding the fact that making a breakthrough in home share is feeling really difficult. I think it feels difficult from home share organisations. I think it feels difficult for people involved in making links. There's significant interest. So there you go, the Daily Telegraph with a major story. And when we get those stories out, people's interest clearly increases again. So thanks, Ewan. So just final couple of slides from me. So what we know is that, and what you know if you're a shared lives carer, is that while it's tough at times, you can do things for people and with people that just are amazing. And when it comes to ratings of services, and in England it's with the Care Quality Commission, what we see is that we outperform any other social care regulated sector. So whether it's domiciliary care, nursing, residential, whatever it happens to be, supported living, shared lives delivers better quality outcomes time and time and time again. And in a sense, I don't need to tell that to people on this AGM, but a regulator sees that. And somehow our ongoing challenge is to continue to help commissioners, councils, NHS partners to see that too. And you only see it in the stories. And there's a picture of somebody I think I've met at a football club that I don't support, but there you go. And what we know is that while we produce better outcomes, we do that at lower cost. And you'll see there some quotes from people who absolutely get what we do. Thanks, Ewan. Excuse me. I think it's really important to just, in the context of all those kind of big figures, get down to the fact that actually a lot of what we're about in terms of our shared lives offer is membership support. So huge thanks to colleagues who operate our support lines, and you'll see there that we've supported well over 1,000 shared lives carers in this last year, looking at bits of advice, but much more than that at times, really supporting people through some really challenging and difficult circumstances, mediating between schemes and carers, trying to just build bridges and help people and see issues from a carer perspective. So lots going on there, but I think for me as chair of the organisation, this really is probably as important as anything that we do. So as I say, big thanks to colleagues who are involved in that. And I think the other thing that we've recognised for a long time, but has become much more acute, just as everybody's sort of struggle with cost of living, and then the kind of challenge that public organisations have, the NHS has, local government has, in relation to funding, is just how do we keep a focus and make the case for supporting carers, shared lives carers, effectively and fairly in relation to what they're paid for the job that they do. And the Invaluable campaign that we ran has been a really important stepping point for them being able to have conversations with commissioners and with government about the real cost of delivering shared lives. So it's okay making the case that we do things better. It's okay making the case that we can do things at a lower cost, but it's not okay just to expect carers to continue to undertake their tasks without effective respite arrangements, without effective recognition of the costs of actually providing shared lives. And you'll see that, and it will vary. So some of you will sit at one end of that spectrum, but we've seen an uplift in fee in this last year. That's an average of about 8%. And we needed to see that. And we'll need to see an ongoing focus on how we make the case.
Richard, have we lost Richard? Oh dear.
Carry on, Ewan.
All right. So we've lost. I'm just checking it wasn't me that had frozen. Sorry, I think we lost Richard there temporarily.
Yeah.
He was actually just about to come to an end. Ian, are you ready to go? Ian? Oh dear.
They were both using the same link, weren't they, and I wonder if I can.
Ian,
There's you.
Sorry.
Oh, you're back, Richard. You're back.
Yeah,
right. Sorry.
Many apologies. I got to the end,
problem.
and I don't know where I went. But I'm back. So Ewan, yeah, we got to the point of any questions. So whether there's anything in the chat, and apologies for just disappearing into the ether there. But I'm back. Don't know quite what happened then. Have we got anything, Lynn, that we need to pick up? Otherwise, we can.
There's no questions in the chat yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
well, look, let's progress. So, Ewan, over to you, or over to Ian. Sorry, I should say. Over to our treasurer. So, Ian.
Okay. Am I live? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Here's a really exciting part that we're all looking forward to. But it's good news this year compared to the situation that I was reporting on last year. The income is down, so it may not at first glance appear to be good news, but membership income grew and expenditure was significantly reduced. So in fact, we had a small loss for the year of about 15,000 compared to the loss in the previous year of over 300,000. Which is a really great achievement by the team. It involved some pain. There were significant job losses, but also it involved the ending of the home share expansion project, as Richard mentioned. We came to the conclusion that we couldn't make this pay, and we had to terminate the project. And reallocate the resources that we did have across the rest of the charity. So we rescued what we could from that. Okay, the balance sheet. So this is again looking a lot healthier. We've managed to stabilize that at the level we had last year, whereas we'd taken a significant reduction last year because of the loss. So this is a healthy position to be in. We keep the reserves in to cover our a few months of trading in case we do have bad times again, because I'm sure there will be difficult times ahead. But it's just looking so much better than it was a year ago. We've reduced the size of the team, which wasn't great. But we've saved. Significantly on overhead costs, our premises costs, and generally on overhead costs. So income generation, funding came to an end from the Welsh government, and So we and Scotland, we had to make the 2 development managers in Scotland redundant, which was disappointing. But there is membership growth, and we've got solid plans to improve going forward. The strategic advice function is a success story. The income has grown from 180,000 to about last year to about 750,000 this year, which is a massive increase and great reflection on the team that working there now. But we constantly look for new funding. We need to, because a lot of the grants we have, as you know, are fixed term grants, and so we're constantly the team led by the chief exec are approaching anybody and everybody who could possibly be available to help support us going forward, with a lot of success. But it's a very challenging environment, and you know, we're hoping this year we've got a balanced budget. We're hoping that we'll have if anything, we'll have a marginal surplus at the end of the year to help to rebuild our balances. And again, we're looking for more consultancy work and through the strategic advice function. The loss of the big lottery grant last year not been completely replaced, but we have secured some new funding, and we continue to work to increase the funding. Okay. Restricted income. We are grateful for the grants we do receive, and listed there are a number of organisations who have supported it this year. I'll just give them a name check because we're really grateful for the support that they're giving us. That's the National Lottery Community Fund, the Health Foundation, Improving Adult Care Together, Social Finance, Moondance Foundation, Rain Foundation, RS MacDonald, Welsh Assembly Government, and Fidelity. Our thanks go to all of those organisations for their generosity. Looking forward, our finances return to a sounder footing, and as I say, we're hoping to produce a small surplus this year. Local government and social care continues to experience significant financial pressures, which restricts their ability to purchase support from us. We all await indications of what the new government is likely to do. There's promises that they will look at local government funding and look at how social care is funded, but we await with bated breath to see what they will actually do. ARF funding, which has been really useful to us this year, is not likely to continue beyond this year. But you know, we're looking to the government, not only the new UK government, but the governments in all the countries of the UK, to take a new view and do something to stabilise social care, and which we obviously look to be a key part of that. So we take any opportunities there are to increase income, and have, as always, we have a number of bids in process at this stage. So it's all looking a lot better than it did this time last year, and I'm happy to take any questions.
We don't have any questions in the chat about the accounts. We've had one question which is just asking if the chair or anyone is set to have a meeting with the appropriate government minister to promote the scheme.
Ewan?
Yes, so I've already met Stephen Kinnock MP, who is the Minister for State for Care in England, and hopeful of meeting the minister in Scotland and in Northern Ireland, and we've actually had really good conversations with the Welsh Government recently as well, so that's picking up quite nicely. And Stephen asks, what is the Strategic Advice Service? So I think because that is quite a new part of what we do, so I don't know whether you're going to cover that in your presentation or just give a quick introduction there. I'll give you a bit of I'll cover that when I come to my presentation. I'll tell you what that's about. Fantastic. I think that's all the questions so far.
Okay, well, before I disappear from the main screen, just a couple more points from me. The annual report and accounts are available on the website. So please have a look at those. You can see how the situation is improving. Normally I ask for approval to for the appointments of the internal auditors, but we get external auditors. Sorry, but we gave more and Smalley a 2-year contract, and so there's no need for us to approve them this year. Those people may remember from last year we had some concerns about the service we received. In the year that's just closed, 23-24, we've had a much better service and are much happier with the service we're receiving from the external auditors. So unless there's any other questions, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. So I will carry on by giving you a bit of further detail about what we've been up to over the last year and some of the challenges we faced, but also some of the successes and exciting things that we've been involved in. And I'll also give you a bit of a sense of where we think we're going next. A year ago, we set a new 3-year plan for Shared Lives Plus, and that set out our longer term ambitions and what we wanted to see happen in the sector in the future. It's worth saying, though, that it's a fast changing environment out there. We've already seen a complete change in our government, changes to administrations in Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. We've seen difficult and fast changing financial circumstances as well within the economy, but also within adult social care. So we're always looking to update and adapt what we're doing to take account of those changes. So earlier this year, we revised our 5 strategic priorities and just made sure they were relevant and updated to reflect some of the issues we're working on now. So we have 5 strategic priorities: providing practical support to the sector to support its growth and improvement, influencing national policy, but with a particular focus on removing some of the policy barriers that get in the way of shared lives, such as around benefits, council tax, some of those thorny issues around how the money moves around the social care and health system. Looking to provide excellent support to our members. And as Richard has already said, we have schemes, we have carers, and we have home share organisations, and we need to provide good support to all 3 of those constituencies. Supporting innovation, we think that Shared Lives is an innovation, and we want to see it continue to grow and adapt and evolve as the sector changes within adult social care and health. So we are supporting a number of projects in that area, and I'll give you a bit more detail about that shortly. And then finally, just making sure we run ourselves as a very good, inclusive, supportive, and caring organisation. So just covering each of those briefly. I won't go into all of the details on the slides. I'll just pick out some interesting work that we're doing. Someone asked about strategic advice. Strategic advice is a bit like a consultancy and improvement service. We basically provide support to local authorities, but also to independent schemes to help them think through where they are and how they can improve. And we provide practical hands-on help to enable those organizations to get to where they want to get to. So that's been a really important part of our organization last year and this year as well. Susie Clark has joined and is leading that team really well, and we're doing some really exciting work. And I'll touch on one big program of work in particular, which is the Accelerating Reform Fund, which really is at the heart of our strategic advice work. We've brought in extra expertise around carer recruitment. We know how critical that is and how difficult it is to recruit and keep our best carers. So we've added to some of our expertise in that area. And also, how do we, and someone raised this in the chat actually, if this is such a good service, someone said, why don't social workers know about it? Well, that's an issue. And we're trying to work with social workers across England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland to build their awareness, skills and knowledge in relation to shared lives. It's a big aspect of what we do. And then providing support to home share. We've actually had think it's 8 organizations seeking to become providers of home share come to us over the last few months. So there's still a real interest in home share out there, and we try to support them through that process of becoming really good home share organizations. Just a spotlight. Before the change of government, the last government launched a new fund called the Accelerating Reform Fund, focusing on how we grow innovation in adult social care. And 27 of 42 what we call integrated care boards selected shared lives as one of the things that they wanted to work on, which is really good news, and it shows you how important it is to local leaders as a service that they want to grow and develop. We've then supported about 15 now integrated care boards to help them think through how they improve and develop shared lives. We think overall it's contributing about £5 million to the sector in England, and we'd really like to see some similar programs in the other UK nations. So that's really exciting, and it's allowing us to understand what is really working out there, what's getting in the way, and sharing the good practice across all of the schemes. That's our plan, and all of the carers that we're supporting through this particular program. We're trying to influence national policy, all change really. So there was changes in Wales, there are changes in Scotland, there are changes in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is now back up and running as a government, and that's all very exciting for us. And we need to get out as much as we can and meet different ministers, civil servants, and press home just how brilliant shared lives is and how much more we need to do to support shared lives carers and people that are supported through shared lives. And we've been making that case relentlessly, particularly since the change of the UK government. I mean, that's a quote from the last government, the minister for the last government, Helen Whately. She was a big fan of shared lives, and we're hoping that Stephen Kinnock is just as much a fan of shared lives. But we know there's some real tangible, tricky issues that we need to work on. Benefits, universal credit are real problems for shared lives. Council tax is another issue. How carers are paid. Are they paid on time? Are they paid to the right level? All those issues are what we continue to work on. It's our bread and butter, and you'll probably come across Michael, my colleague, who's really become the UK expert on shared lives policy, and we're doing a lot of work in that area. Bit of spotlight here. So part of that policy influencing work is about profile raising, making sure people are aware of shared lives. We absolutely know that it's not as well recognized as it should be. It's not on the public mind, and we want more people to understand what shared lives is and how to get involved. So we're doing some work nationally to get articles in newspapers. There's an article in the photograph there in the Daily Mirror, which was a 2-page spread on a wonderful story about a person supported in Liverpool by our colleagues PSS. So that was great to see. There's a picture there of one of our carers with the person she supports at a Buckingham Palace reception. This is all important stuff. It's trying to make sure that shared lives is recognised, attracts attention. So we're doing a lot more work on that. We're working with academics as well to make sure that there's constantly good evidence being collected about shared lives. We are also supporting the UK governments to grow the amount of work they do on positioning shared lives as a really valuable service. That third area is supporting growth of innovation, and we've had some really exciting successes over the last couple of years in this area. So we've been funded by the Health Foundation to develop a matching site, which we hope will really help schemes and people supported and carers to find really good matches. And I can absolutely tell you more about that if you just get in contact with myself. It's a really exciting project. Over 150 people from the sector have been involved in shaping that. Lots of scheme workers, lots of carers, lots of people supported. So that's really exciting. We've got a really exciting program underway looking at care experience young people. And we've already got 24 schemes across the UK involved. We've got a scheme in the Borders in Scotland. We've got a scheme in Powys in Wales, and many schemes in England. We'd really like a scheme to join us from Northern Ireland if at all possible. So that's really exciting. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. And we've also been looking at dementia and whether shared lives can play a bigger part in supporting people living with dementia, and that's a really important area we're looking at again this year. And also, how do we work in rural areas? So in Scotland, in Murray, we've been working with older people in rural areas to see if we can give them support. Leaving Care, a wonderful new program. The photo there is of Victoria, my colleague. Victoria is working on the program. She's care experienced herself, and she's meeting Fatima Whitbread there, talking about our program. She also met the minister, Janet Delby. So we're really making waves nationally about the importance of this program. As I've said, it's actually now 24 areas working with us, and we're engaging the LGA, DFE, Ofsted to try and make sure they're all supportive of this endeavour, and this becomes a real area of growth for us. I'll get to the end of this soon, don't worry. So providing high quality support to members, absolutely essential. Richard highlighted this is the bread and butter of what we do. Lynn, Becky, Bex, there's just Kathy, there's just a wonderful team supporting you all. We know that perhaps in the past the team was larger, particularly in the nations, so we are trying to address that. We're trying to grow the team again and make sure that you're getting the support that you need. So whilst we didn't have a national conference, we've got a whole program of exciting webinars coming up later this year and early next year. So we'll be advertising that soon. There are some really exciting events that we're going to be putting on. So hopefully that really hits the mark. We've had lots of meetings, as I've said, with ministers, and we continue to try to help what is a sector under quite a lot of pressure. So we're coming across quite a few carers who are finding it difficult, and we're trying to offer some help. We know that schemes are under pressure financially. There's a lot of pressure on the system, and we're trying as much as we can, as hard as we can, to help the sector during this difficult period. Finally, it's important and incumbent on us to have a really good, high-performing organisation. I think Ian's highlighted that the financial situation has improved. It was really painful, and not an easy process for us to go through, but we have got into a stronger financial place, and it's about maintaining that. We get great support from our colleague Lynette, who continues to support us with her financial knowledge and experience, and we've got a really good finance manager with John. So we carry on with that, but we're also looking to expand our internal training. And the picture there is of my colleague Hope, who is one of our ambassadors. She's supported in Liverpool by PSS, and she is one of our ambassadors. She goes out, she talks about shared lives, she helps us with our projects. She's absolutely essential, along with about 15 others. And that's become something of a real mainstay within our organization and a real important aspect of our organization. Right, I'll end up, and hopefully you can drill me with some questions if you want to. So looking ahead, putting shared lives at the heart of discussions about the new government is absolutely crucial. In Scotland, we've got a national care service being developed. In England, we will have one too. In Wales and Northern Ireland, different arrangements being put in place. We have to have shared lives absolutely the heart of thinking, and that means people are receiving fairer fees, the carers are accessing breaks, and schemes are well funded. So that's our aspiration there. Equally, raising the profile of home share, making sure that's on the agenda of governments as well. Keeping it on the leadership agenda, my colleague Richard will know this organisation well, but ADAS, it's just the Association of Directors of Adult Social Services in England, continue to support shared lives, and they just asked us to start a new piece of work to develop national guidance on commissioning and developing shared lives for adults with learning disabilities. That's how seriously they take shared lives, and we want to continue to work with them to grow interest and support locally. Supporting our members in difficult times, it's really quite a difficult period. There's lots of international news which is uncomfortable and difficult, I'm sure, for many of us, and it's difficult financially in England. There was a very challenging budget for the new government, and all of that feeds through to make it quite difficult in adult social care. So we're trying to, as much as possible, be a strong organisation to give you the help that you need. And thank you for all of your help. Thank you for making my job so much easier and so enjoyable, and just an absolute pleasure to be working with you all. So that's it from me, Richard. Any questions for myself?
We have some questions.
Please,
Not sure who they're going to be for. There's a couple of questions about sort of ARF and ICB. Somebody asked said that Sutton and Merseyside weren't listed on the ICB support list. They were wondering if there was a reason for this. And Ginny was asking if other areas are experiencing a delay and a hold up in getting the full funding on the ARF.
Two very good questions. Need to choose my words carefully. So actually, the Cheshire emerged. We weren't aware of that actually at the start of the program. So the slides are a little bit out of date, but I know that my colleague Susie has been in contact with Merseyside. So they are absolutely part of the ARF. They are working on shared lives, and we're providing a little bit of support to them. So that, I think, hopefully answers that question. We have been pressing the government to clarify what will happen with the second tranche of funding. We're getting optimistic noises we might hear very soon, but I can't say anything more than that. It's looking optimistic, is all I can say at this point. But as soon as I know, I'll be telling people about that.
There's a question about, I think the question is whether the raise in employers' national insurance is likely to affect shared lives carers because they're self-employed.
I think I've answered
Yes,
that
well,
one in the chat, Lydia. Just
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
sorry, Hugh.
no, I mean, it's affecting the sector. There's no doubt about that. So a lot of the independent providers of shared lives, like Ategi, PSS, Certitude, are quite worried because it's increasing their costs considerably. So there's certainly a national pressure to look at that again. I don't know the details of how it affects individual carers, and Lynn, maybe that's something we can return to.
Yeah, it shouldn't do, I don't think. I think for organisations with less than 4 people, it doesn't affect them. But let's have a look at that and we'll come back to carers.
And kind of a related question about why is it that sort of shared lives carers don't have an opportunity to pay into a local authority pension scheme? Someone suggesting that could be a really good recruitment incentive.
That's another one that maybe Kathy or Lynn can take, but is an incredibly sensible question. Lynn, do we have?
It is. I think it'd be down to local authorities and their budget constraints, wouldn't it? We've looked at this before in terms of the employment status, so it's a complicated one. It's also one that we do get coming in, and we get it coming in on the back of the income protection question about shared lives carers not being able to get income protection. Something that we do keep looking at, but we haven't quite got the answer to yet. So, but we'll add it on and have a further look at that.
Thank you for raising that. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Anything else, Lydia?
We've got a comment from Audrey, just some good news. She's saying that they've received their agreed funds from 2 of the local authorities that are supporting them. That's Home Share down in
Wonderful.
in the
That's great.
South Gloucestershire and North Somerset. Showplay is saying, have we considered social impact bonds?
I'm aware of them. No, actually, to be actually really honest, there's an opportunity here with the work we're doing on dementia. So we're working with an organization called Social Finance, and they're the national experts on social impact bonds. And one of the things they'll explore with us is whether funding can be brought into the sector to help grow the offer for people with dementia. So it's certainly something I've picked up on recently. Whether we got very far with it, I'm not so sure. But it's a really interesting question.
And one last one. Lee is asking if we can get some clarity about national capacity tracker for schemes. He says he knows what our position is on it, but he's worried about there's some messages about being fined if it's said they don't complete it and comply with the requirements.
Okay, I'll take that to my colleague Michael, and we'll bring that to the Department of Health and Social Care. I know there's a tracker. I know that they've made some changes to it recently, so I'll look into that.
That is all the questions we have at the moment.
Thank you, Lydia. That's really helpful. So I can now hand over. It wasn't to Richard, so that allowed me to catch up with what I'm actually doing. I'm going to hand over to Dave Matthews, who is our chair of the Home Share Your Voice and operates a home share organisation down in Brighton.
Thank you, Ewan. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to go through a quick summary of the last year for the Home Share Network, part of the Shared Lives Plus offer. In fact, it's been referenced that we're the plus part of that name. So, you know, it's a great to be here, and we're a new scheme, and we're actually one of the 5 new schemes that joined in the network this year. And there's 19 currently in total. So that's showing that there's a lot of interest in this particular area and what it can offer to people in this current climate. Since the last AGM, we've held 2 Your Voice forums, which I'm the chair of, and also the network has been meeting every 2 months, which is continued to be appreciated for the opportunity to come together on a frequent basis and discuss things. As the chair, I'm also have a place on the Shared Lives Plus board of trustees and try to make sure that the voice of network members are represented at the board meetings. And I'll come back to that a little bit later on as well. If we look at the last year, following on from the big meeting that happened in Birmingham last October, not the one that just gone, but one before in 2023, which was commented on by Ramona last year's AGM, there's been a recognition that it's been quite a changeable time in the home share service, with the comments obviously about the funding ending, the franchise model changing, and the integration more into Shared Lives Plus, which meant there's been lots of changes. But since July, we've had Nicola Watson starting as our home share officer within Shared Lives, which has been really helpful. And also, unfortunately, in the last year, some existing members did leave the network. But we're going to focus on some of the successes in the last year. It's already been mentioned once by Richard, but there was a great article in the Telegraph earlier in April, which several of our members were part of, which included the Home Share Gloucester, Home Share Oxfordshire, and Home Share Leeds, which was really great. And what that actually had as an impact for the network support that's offered through Shared Lives Plus is a big spike in the traffic to the home share website, which went from an average of about 60 per day to up to 450 people visiting per day, which was a really great response and hopefully helped raise the awareness of it. We also had our home share week in October this year, 2024, with the goal that was asked for of raising awareness of home share to the adult children of potential householders. So this is where family of an older vulnerable person may see more of the benefit than potentially the older person would be exposed to. And we had a really good week where we celebrated many things each day on social media. We were looking at new members, we were looking at some of the opportunities and inspiring stories that we could share. And we were also featured in the Care Talk website. Home Share Leeds hosted a webinar for Leeds City Council colleagues and also the neighbourhood networks to discuss the benefits of home sharing. And Home Share Oxfordshire shared their amazing film that was put together, which had its premiere at the Home Share International Congress a few weeks before that. And it was a really great way of showing what home share offers and can provide. We've also been taking part in the annual State of the Sector report, which is put together. And we actually had 90% of the network members respond, and that was really, really helpful. It gave us a really good picture. And what we saw from that response was that there's been at least 59 matches being made over the last 13 months. And at the time of writing this, 45 of those matches are still active. So that's where we're at. But that's the minimum number, because we know we do have a couple of members that didn't respond. So that's roughly where we are. And we're looking to try and work together to really highlight in those reports about the values of the network members, and because that's what drives us, very similar to how in Shared Lives we're driven by our values. And so we're looking to build more and more of the stories of the diverse range of matches in home share, because each placement is very unique. So that really did help with giving us the tools to look at how do we raise the awareness of home share overall, particularly with like health and social care and also their potential household and families, which is a really important issue for network members. There's no getting away from it. Home share is a very small element of this type of support that can be offered, and it's got really great potential to be a preventative measure for people falling further into social care. So I think we need to get in early with people and raise the awareness. So other things that have been happening in the last year, We've come back to reviewing the good practice guidance because there's a whole package of tools available to home share members. That was a big thing that needed to be done. It needed to be reviewed for the end of the franchise, but also just where are we really looking at the moment. There's also been a submission of something called an evidence statement to the Older People's Housing Task Force to show the value of this service. We've also been kept informed of the opportunities from the ARF funding and the Shared Lives Plus connection to that. There are some results happening, and Audrey just shared in the chat there about some success of some funding coming through from their services, which is really nice. We've also looked at like trying to develop pilots, and we had the Welsh pilots running in the last 2 years, and there was good press coverage of that in things like the Daily Post, Wales Online, South Wales Evening Post, and the Daily Telegraph again. It is a shame, but I do need to report that the Gwynedd home share pilot is in the process of ending with no further funding available, and it's a challenge. The funding is very difficult at this moment, but there is a lot of interest in the home share model, and with Nicola now in post, we're getting some really good sort of information about what's been happening. And in the last 3 months between August and now, there's been over 100 potential home sharer or home owner inquiries through the website to Nicola, which has either been able to be pointed on to network members or potentially like noted that there isn't a service there yet, but where they might have the nearest one available to them. There's also been 8 potential new scheme inquiries in the same time as well, which are all in different states. Some are progressing, some are being left to come back to us when they're ready. So I think that's quite a good reflection of the interest in home share and the potential growth that it could go through over the next year to 2 years. And then when we look ahead, the network recognizing that instability and a lot of the changes, there is a lot of reviewing going on of the Home Share UK network, including its charter, where this is the thing that all members sign up to and agree to take part and collaborate with. But we do need to look at, like, is that right? Is that reflective of where we are? And are members, all members, taking part actively in that? We're also, with Shared Lives Plus, they're looking at the membership offer and having discussions with network members to highlight what the top priorities are for the support wanted from the Shared Lives Plus service. And we've got this sort of information coming back in, and we're so far having information saying we want a lot of referrals and inquiries and support through that phone line and how that gets signposted. And, you know, that's part of what Nicola helps us with. And you can hear earlier how I said that's been quite successful, but we do need to get that awareness raising out, and we will be working through that. The Shared Lives Plus board of trustees, which I'm part of, really do feel that the home share network is a really valued part of the organization. And, you know, I stole it from one of the, I think it was the chair actually, Richard. I stole the bit about the plus in Shared Lives Plus is what home share is. It's so valuable to the board that recently in a board of trustees meeting where I fed back some of the issues that were coming up, it was decided that we'd have a dedicated slot at the next board of trustee meeting, which is a face-to-face one, where we can really directly feedback. My role will be to feedback some of the information that I gather from members directly to the board to look at how do we move forward in a really positive, supportive and collaborative way. And to support getting that feedback together, we've got 2 network meetings scheduled in on the 26th and 29th of November to give as many members the opportunity to join in and share their feedback. So that's going to be directly discussed in December, which I think is a really great recognition of the importance of home share to shared lives and how it is becoming truly part of the whole network. And that is where I'm going to wrap that up. There's lots of little highlights, but we do only get a few minutes for this. But thank you for listening to me. I'm not sure if there will be any questions around home share, but I'm very open to them.
No, we don't have any questions about home share just yet.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to move on and ask my colleague, Kathy, to speak. Now, Kathy speaking on behalf of Carol. Kathy leads our work with the schemes across the UK. Kathy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go for it.
And my video is working, which is wonderful. Good morning, everyone. Yes, as has been mentioned, Carol's sends her apologies. She's still recovering from a recent op and is not up to joining us. So she's trusted me to give a roundup of this year and what's been happening with the Your Voice forums. And we wish her all the best for her continuing recovery. And as Ewan said, I work in the membership team. I'm the membership support manager. And I support Carol with running the Your Voice and getting agendas in place. So Carol has chaired both Your Voice forums for schemes this year in February and June. And Carol is a Shared Lives worker for Positive Steps at Shropshire, which is one of our CQC outstanding rated schemes. And she's, as part of her role of the trustee for Shared Lives Plus, she is also the safeguarding lead for Shared Lives Plus as well. This year, in a change to the way the forums are run, we decided to link the discussion topics between the scheme and the Carers Forum to offer a more rounded view on a topic and allow us at Shared Lives Plus to create resources then that are requested by our membership. So a good example of this is out of the safeguarding discussions that we had back in February. We are now creating a workshop in the membership team as part of our learning season to better prepare carers to protect themselves, to avoid unnecessary safeguardings and to help carers understand what is required of them and what happens during a safeguarding investigation. And that's directly come out of the discussions at the Your Voice Forum. In June, we discussed the topical issue of respite and holidays and how these are planned and managed. Steve, our carer champion in the membership team, came along to the scheme forum to feedback from the discussions at the carer forum, which was useful for schemes to know what carers had said. Discussions such as these highlight the differences in practices across schemes, such as the fees that are offered or the procedures that are used. One scheme had only just managed to secure respite for their carers and were keen to see the difference that would make, but others were already offering respite to people from other areas of the country as part of their scheme, so they could have a breakaway. The forums also give us a chance at Shared Lives Plus and an opportunity to update schemes on topics such as the ARF or the My Shared Life developments, our invaluable reports, the updates to our agreements and our new projects and plans over the year as well. And then we can have discussions with the schemes about those. And that's all from the Your Voice scheme forums this year.
Thank you, Kathy. So I can see that Lydia's asking if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, we don't have a question about this, but someone's got a question, a general question. I think it's one of these things where we forget that if you're part of Home Share or you're part of Shared Lives, you might not fully understand what the two sides of the organisation are. And I think Stephen is a Shared Lives carer. So I mean, I don't know whether we want to just briefly remind people what Home Share is as opposed to what Shared Lives is.
Yes, yeah, we can do this. I can bravely have a go, and if I trip up, Dave can help me. But yeah, so Shared Lives is a regulated model of support which involves an approved Shared Lives carer being matched with someone seeking support, and then that person who is seeking support then lives with or regularly visits the Shared Lives carer. That's Shared Lives, and I think we all know how that works. Home share is a different model. It's often also called intergenerational housing with support. So it tends to, but not always have an intergenerational feel to it. And that involves a householder being matched. So it got the similarities with the matching element, matched with a home sharer who comes and lives with that householder. Now, typically, not always, but typically the householder is older and the home sharer is younger, but that doesn't have to be the case. The big difference with that model is it's not regulated in the same way. It's not part of the health, the CQC regulatory framework. So it is an unregulated model, and it's got a slightly different focus, that intergenerational element as well. I've probably not described the differences as well as I could, but that's my understanding. Anyone, David, if I've made an absolute hash of that, please bail me out. But I think that's the difference. Hopefully that's helpful.
I think it's important that there is that difference between the regulated and unregulated aspects of the support. It is just that home share is a much more collaborative way of allowing someone to stay very independent in their own home, which is such a positive outcome for people. We know we're all approach those points in our lives at different times, and actually something like your own space is really important. So with this sort of model, it really allows that by having someone that's assessed and approved and vetted and can be supported to move in and then monitored to make sure no one's getting their advantage taken off. And it's a great service. It is slow to grow, I will say that. I mean, like, we're a new scheme and we've got two rooms available now, and trying to go through that matching process. But it is really kind and fantastic.
Thank you, Dave. That's really helpful. Thank you for doing that. And I can see Marion, your colleague, is saying you did a really good job earlier summarizing what's been going on. So just wanted to share that with you. Okay, Kathy, any other questions for Kathy from schemes?
Nothing else for Kathy.
Okay.
Oh,
Right. Well,
sorry,
look,
no, Chris has raised their hand. Oh, I can see a question actually, Chris.
Okay.
There's a question about motor use expenses and motability. So Chris, do you want to kind of give us a bit more about what that question is?
Or Chris, you could easily email Lynn or Becky, and we'll happily come back on that. I don't actually know the answer off the top of my head. I think I know what you're getting at, but
We'll be in touch, Chris.
we'll be in touch.
Okay, and we've actually got one more question for David. Someone's asking, how's the scheme finding liaising with those rare ones called social workers running triage?
So unfortunately, social workers know even less about home share than they do about shared lives, which is often a common thing. We're trying to, where we've been trying to integrate into is the point of entry that someone might ring up about concerns around, or say, a relative to the local authority. So that adult services sort of duty lines, because that's where we're probably best placed. Social workers don't look at it at this moment. The people that would be best placed for this would be so far down the priority list. We actually need to get into the more preventative part of it. So when people first make contact with a local authority in that initial portal, that's where we want to go in.
Thanks, David. I'd add that people like social prescribers that you might have heard of are a crucial group for promoting home share. People who are out in the community more and in that preventative space, as David said, is really where it needs to happen. Okay, I'll move on to our last but not least, Drusilla, who's going to talk about what's been happening for carers.
Hi everybody, welcome. You've sat through quite a lot. I don't want to add any pressure or burdens to that, but I just want to very briefly say that I've gone through my first year as your chair, and I've learned so much. I am in a privileged position because I am the chair of this committee. I'm in a privileged position to be part of the Board of Trustees. So therefore, you as carers in shared lives have got a direct link, voice to voice to voice. And at the board meetings, I always make sure, and I try my best, that whatever decisions are made at the board level, they take on board what it's really like as a shared lives carer. The board members work very, very hard, as you can see from all the impressive work that they've done and are doing. Excuse me. Excuse me. But they don't know what it's like to live as a shared lives carer. And that's where my voice, via what you want to say, is very important. I've picked up on a lot in this last year. Respite being one. Nobody's singing from the same hymn sheets from all the local authorities. And that's so sad because some of us have really good situations within respite and others absolute nightmare. And it's not being put down to rest that you've said your piece and it's forgotten. No, it's being worked on. It really is. Safeguarding is another issue. We have got so many safeguarding issues that are leaving this shared lives carer very isolated. And people don't know how to talk to them. Managers too frightened to talk to them or come up with any excuses, can only share certain amount of things. But at the end of the day, we are human beings going through hell. And whilst the allegations, which I really want word changed to alligators because they come and bite you when you least expect it, we need to be, in the loop, as in just a voice to say, hi, Betty, just to let you know I've got nothing I can share with you, but how are you? That sort of comment. Just keeping the link with the shared lives carers, because safeguarding is a horrendous situation and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. New carers support, when we have new carers come in, I'd really like to get through to the managers that you there? Can you hear me? Oh, I'd
Yeah.
really like to get through to the managers that, a buddy system or mentoring system is very valuable to new carers coming on board, whether they've come through from fostering or whether they're coming straight into shared lives. We need somebody to talk to that's not always going to tick a box on a page or write the fact that you've got a bottle of wine standing on your cabinet. We just need somebody else to talk to and have a little moan about. All these things that come about as a shared lives carer are very, very real to me. And I've been a carer for a long time with shared lives. I've been a foster carer before that. And I've had the transition going through from foster care through to shared lives. I was on my own. There was nothing about. There are things in line now. And when I go to the board meeting, and we've got one coming up in December, please trust in me. I've got a few things that I'd like to say to the board to make them realise and remember that they're dealing with the workers, the real on the ground workers, which you shared life carers are all about. What I must say, and I must congratulate the board on, is the transparency that you offer. I've been with other organisations and it's been a board has made a decision and it's there and the workers have made, are struggling here. But with Shared Lives Plus, you board members keep everything transparent and I thank you for that. And I want the Shared Lives carers to appreciate the fact that they are very transparent. We're not all perfect, we make a few mistakes, but what I also want to leave this conversation on is the fact that when you as a shared lives carer bring anything to the meetings where I chair, I can't instantly answer them. Nobody can instantly, well, sometimes, out of the blue there might be, but things take time. It has to go to a committee, it has to go on to specialized people. So when something comes forward big, please don't expect an immediate response. It takes time, but it's not forgotten. Even if we haven't spoken about it, it's not forgotten. I've got a notebook. I keep everything written down and I keep ticking things off and I keep making comments. It's been lovely knowing that you've joined us on the AGM. I hope to see you again soon. The dates for our meetings to be released really soon. We've got a board meeting in December, like I said, and I appreciate being your chair, and thank you for allowing me to be that. Thank you. Any questions?
We don't have any questions yet, but a couple of people just sort of agreeing with you vehemently and appreciating your passion and your commitment to other carers.
Thank you.
Yeah, and someone commenting that safeguarding has destroyed the lives of several of their friends.
Yeah, yeah. Safeguarding is absolutely horrendous. I've been through safeguarding myself, so I'm speaking from first hand. And thank you for the comment about the passion. Yeah, I have got a deep, deep passion for you as Shared Lives carers. You do a tremendous, tremendous work, and I won't let anybody forget the work that you do, the good days and the real rough days. And it's never 9 to 5. It's always in the middle of the night or bank holidays or things like that. Yeah. But anyway, rest assured, Shared Lives carers, you've got a grand board of trustees that are working for you in transparency, and that's important. I'll shut up now.
Not at all. Thank you, Drusilla. That was really good. Any final questions for Drusilla? Any other thoughts? Thank you. Okay. Now, where are we? So I believe we are pretty much at the end of our AGM. So before I'll hand back to you, Richard, if that's okay, just to close off, and I'll
Yep.
say thank you all for your tremendous work. It's such an inspiring place to work in because I get to see what people are doing, and it's just fantastic. And all of us think that at Shared Lives Plus. So we love our work. So thank you very much for coming today, and hopefully more exciting and good news in the future about Shared Lives and home share. Richard, I'm just going to hand back to you, if that's okay.
Thanks, Ewan. Thanks, Drusilla, David, and everybody's made a contribution. And we had nearly 110 people, I think, on the call at one point. We've dropped a few people, but thanks for your engagement. Thanks for the questions. We will answer any others that we've not been able to answer in the conversation during the meeting, and we will continue, as you continue day in, day out, to ensure that home share and Shared Lives gets the recognition and the support and the funding that it requires. So that's our job. That's what we'll continue to do this year, and you'll continue to do the great things you continue to do. So many thanks. Take care, and we'll hopefully see some of you in between, but we'll be meeting again next year at our AGM. But many thanks for all that you do too. Thanks a lot.